Hollywood, 1966 year. Warner Brothers Studio. Filming. The set of the TV series The Green Hornet. 42 degrees inside a closed hangar. Tungsten lamps turn the air into something almost tangible from the heat. Cameras in positions. Technicians adjust the angles. The director drinks coffee in the corner while the team cooks the next scene. The fight scene is simple paper. 3 minutes of choreography action between Bruce Lee and the main character, the film's stuntman, a man named Rick Thorns. No one knows yet that Rick came today with the intention of not following the script. Rick Thorns is 31 years old, a meth 85 to 95 kilograms of muscle gained over a decade of doing the dirty work, which famous actors don't do. He fell from buildings, crashed cars, burned under control, received blows that were sometimes less controlled than they should have been. He's good at what he does, professional, respected in the circle. But the last 3 months since Bruce Lee showed up on the set, something started to eat away at Rick Thorns from the inside, so he can't name it exactly, but feels it every morning when entering the studio. The problem is simple and humiliating at the same time. Bruce Lee does everything better, a little better, completely better. Speed. Bruce's punches are so absurd that the camera, barely 16 frames per second, manages to capture the movement. Directors ask him to slow down on purpose so that the public could see what was happening. Surgical precision. Every strike stops a centimeter from the face of the stage partner, controlled with a precision that seems impossible for anyone who knows the work of a stuntman. And the worst thing for Rick is that Bruce is kind to everyone, patient, ready to explain any technique to the one who asks without arrogance, without need to prove something. This kindness, for some reason, makes Rick ashamed to explain it out loud. It does everything worse. Because Rick has been the most capable person in the room, the one not afraid, the one who can endure anything. And now this man weighing in at 61 kilograms, who comes every day in sneakers and regular trousers, turns the entire sight into a lesson in humility for everyone who thought they knew anything about movement and combat. Rick began to tell stories at the end of the day for the team, stories about how Chinese martial arts are beautiful, but they don't actually work. Like any average boxer, he will break this Eastern philosophy in 2 direct jabs. Like Bruce's speed is a trick of cameras, correct angles, and post-production editing. The stories grew because no one openly disputed them. And stories that no one disputes grow until they become a conviction. Today, Rick decided to test the belief. Scene of the day. A sequence where the Green Hornet encounters 2 thugs in a narrow corridor. Bruce enters, neutralizes them with a series of quick strikes, and leaves the frame. Choreography defined, rehearsed 3 times in the morning. Every movement is noted, every distance is calculated. Rick is the first thug. His job is to take the low blow from Bruce in the thigh, show the reaction, and fall against the wall. It's in the script. It's rehearsed. What Rick planned, no. The director yells, "Action!" Bruce enters the corridor with those signature movements that distinguish everything he does. Not a single unnecessary gesture. Everything in the body is focused on what it should happen. The first 2 movements of the choreography are performed with millimeter precision, exactly as rehearsed, exactly as Rick expected. And then Rick changes. Instead of taking a hit in the thigh and falling, Rick steps aside and strikes a real punch. Not a game, not a joke. A real punch with all his body weight, aimed at Bruce's face with full intention of entering into real contact, to prove to the camera, the team, and himself that the theory is correct. That Bruce Lee is without a script and without preparation, just a little man with beautiful movements. What happens in the next 3 seconds will change what Rick Torrance believes for the rest of his life. First second. Rick's punch lands a calculated path to Bruce's face. Quickly, it's hard, really. But Bruce is no longer where he was half a second ago. Not because he foresaw this particular blow, but because Bruce Lee's body, after 20 years of daily training, processes physical information at a level preceding conscious thought. Rick's shoulder displacement, weight transfer, micro-correction of the foot, all precede any real attack. All this reached Bruce's nervous system before the fist had gone halfway. Bruce moves his face 6 centimeters to the right, the bare minimum. The fist, 95 kilograms, walks through the void where only the face and the impulse behind it existed. It does not find resistance, so it disperses. Rick trips over his own blow. Second. This is the moment when everything could have ended very differently. Bruce could counterattack with real force from the position Rick just created by tripping over the center of gravity, extended forward, and with hands outside the line of protection. It would be destructive, quick, and justifiable. Instead, the left hand rises and meets Rick's forearm, still moving, not blocking force against force, but redirecting, absorbing the remaining impulse, and neutralizing without additional violence. At the same time, Bruce's right foot is placed behind Rick's heel with the precision of a man who did the movement 10,000 times, and the right hand finds Rick's chest with hard, controlled pressure. Not a blow but physical instructions. Bruce's body tells Rick's body, in language not needing words, what's the next move. The only variable. With what will Rick's dignity reach the floor? Third second. Rick falls. Not like falls in action scenes in a controlled manner, rehearsed professional falls for real. Half the studio rises toward him as I never rose in 10 years of working as a stuntman, and the sound is more honest, heavier, and he lies there a moment that lasts longer than any stage needs it. The whole venue freezes. The cameras are still filming, the technicians stand motionless, the director with a cup of coffee in the air in an interrupted movement. Everyone is digesting what their eyes saw in the last 3 seconds, trying to find something similar in memory for comparison, and find nothing. Bruce stands in the corridor of the scenery, breathing calm, the pose with which he entered into the scene. He looks at Rick on the floor, and there is no anger on his face, no triumph. There is something that the people present there will describe a little differently when they tell this story later, but they all point in the same direction. It looks like genuine concern. He walks up to Rick and crouches down in a pose of the winner over the vanquished, checking to see if everything is okay with the other one. Speaks quietly enough that the cameras didn't record in English, straight and no drama. Are you okay? Rick is okay. Physically, the fall was controlled enough. Bruce took care of it in the second when he had a choice of how it would end. But Rick Thorns is not okay in ways that have nothing to do with the studio floor. He looks up at Bruce, and the hardest part is not the pain from the falls or the shame of missing a beat before turning 40 people. The hardest thing is that Bruce watches him without condemnation, without the satisfaction Rick would have expected from anyone who has just been attacked without warnings and who responded decisively. Bruce's eyes are the eyes of a man who understands what happened and why, and do not need further explanation, because he's seen this story before in different versions. Rick says hoarse, louder than he should. How are you? How did you do this? Bruce answers slowly, as if he weighs every word not for impressions, but for accuracy. You endured wait before changing intention. The body always warns before conscious solutions. After sufficient time with training, you learn to hear warning. Rick is silent for a moment, then he says, the only honest thing I can say, I came today to expose you as an imposter. Bruce doesn't show surprise, saying, only I know. This is worse than any scolding Rick could have gotten. What Bruce knew, he entered the scene knowing. He performed the first 2 choreography movements normally, even knowing, and waited because he hoped Rick wouldn't go all the way. And Rick went all the way. In the end, the director finally moves, shouts something about a break. The team begins to diverge from the bustle needed to process what was seen. Bruce extends his hand. Rick looks at his hand for a long second, like a second when a person decides what kind of man he will be from now on. He takes the hand. Bruce pulls with a non-rough technique with a force of 61 kilograms. He lifts 95 kilograms from the floor of the Hollywood studio on the same principle. That's all he does. Find the right lever, apply force under the right angle, use what there is. Instead of trying to create something, no. Rick gets up, brushes off his clothes, and can't look directly at Bruce. That's why he looks into the corridor of decorations, tungsten lamps, for anything but the eye of a person who has just had every reason in the world to humiliate him, and he chose not to use any of them. Bruce puts his hand on Rick's shoulder briefly, a gesture of a person who closes a topic without the need to speak about it and speaks only. Tomorrow we have a scene on the roof. I need a partner who I can trust. Rick Thorns appears the next day and the day after, and for all the remaining days of filming, he never tells anyone what he was planning that day, never mentions those seconds, never describes how the floor rose to meet him in a way that 10 years of work had not prepared. But stories about Chinese martial arts, the camera trick stops completely. When someone from the team asks what it was like working with Bruce Lee, Rick Torrance thinks for a moment before answering. He thinks about those 3 seconds, thinks about the outstretched hand, thinking about how to knock a person off his feet and at the same time offer the only kind of respect that really matters, respect which does not require the other to be small to make you seem big. Then he answers, it's working with someone who knows exactly what he is capable of and never needed to prove it to anyone but yourself. 3 seconds to change a person. A whole life to understand what these 3 seconds have taught me. Not about struggle, about choice. About what you do with power when no one will judge you for the answer. This is a question that Bruce Lee left on the floor of that studio that day at 42 degrees. What do you do when you can hurt and choose not to hurt? Who are you at this moment? Who are you really?